Okay, this is going to be the after-action report for the 4th Naval Division. For the operation on the 11th of November, which was a Saturday, we will cover the battle at Tempest Islands, which KSR named the Battle of Java Sea. Where the naming conventions came from, I have no idea. It just started off as a meme in the Western theater. There's an island in Orbreaker Isles called Iwo Jima, and the main island in Stemmer Landing is called Japan, so I guess that carried over. So we'll just go with the meme name, Battle of Java Sea, whatever. Um, we're going to cover that, and then we're also going to cover the initial invasion into Godscroft, specifically the Island of Exile. So I need to give credit here is that it wasn't only CNC coalition that took part in this. There were a bunch of other regiments that weren't part of the coalition that were invited before the operation began, and also whilst the operation was underway, they joined in and helped out as well. So the full list of regiments, I at this time don't actually know who was a part of it, but from this after action report is the 4th Naval Division's perspective of the battle. So this is the point of view for this report here. Now, 4th Naval Division is one of the smaller parts of the coalition, so we played somewhat of a minor role, but we were there for the big fleet battle at Tempest Islands. So that's probably the one part that most people want to see and hear, which we will get into. I'll try to skip over the normal strategic and operational stuff, which I usually cover in these things. I'll try to get through them as fast as possible because everyone just wants to see the battle and the tactical analysis. I'm pretty sure this definitely will be one of the more exciting after action reports that I'm going to do. So yeah, let's get through the boring stuff first. The main objective was to take out Axit. I'm pretty sure the main objective was to just try and like knock out the tech on the town base here. So the initial target was going to be this small island here, where we would go in, uh, deploy combat engineers to build a bunker base, and then after that, once this island was secure, go to Exile, take out the relic base there, secure that, build up the defenses, move to the western island where we were supposed to deploy a battery of 150mm cannons, and it was these 150mm cannons that were going to destroy Axit and soften it up for the amphibious forces. I didn't come up with this plan. The entire operation was pretty much quarterbacked by 3rd Marines, by a guy called Roxsu, which is a good friend of mine. Um, I don't quite understand why the initial staging point was going to be this island. It didn't really serve any real purpose, and there wasn't much of anything there. But when we got into Godscroft, it was already taken by somebody else, so we didn't have to worry about that. But the 150mm batteries, they didn't actually come along in the end, so we weren't able to take Axit. But everything up until Exile, where we landed and took, that all went fine. So the problems that we ran into, strategically speaking, was the original fleet composition was going to be 2 destroyers, a base ship, and a storage ship. And the 4th Naval was going to provide 2 gunboats as escort, and I think there were 2 other regiments that were supposed to bring along like 3 to 5 more gunboats to support that as well. We also had a Marine contingent, which was the 3rd Marines. They were going to supply most of the bodies to hit the beaches with. And we also had a armor company of about 6 to 8 tanks. I think it was a little bit more because, like I said before, a bunch of other regiments joined in halfway through the operation, and they came in and supported us with extra armor. But that was the bulk of the fleet right there. It was pretty massive operation. It was close to about 100 people were involved at the final conclusion of the operation. But the problems we ran into was that we didn't actually manage to get the whole fleet underway until much later after the initial H hour, which was pretty bad because that meant when we went into Tempest Islands and fought the major naval battle there, we only had 1 destroyer and 2 gunboats. So less than a third of the whole fleet was not committed to that first engagement, which why it was quite important that we won that battle the way that we did with the only a loss of 1 gunboat, because it was around 12 to 15 Warden gunboats had made an incursion in the Tempest Islands, and they were right in front of our invasion fleet. And so we went in, we knocked them out, and that cleared the way all the way into Godscroft. And we never quite went up against any major opposition after that. There was a couple of counterattacks with about groups of 4 gunboats. I think the Wardens attempted twice with two groups of 4 gunboats to try and counterattack, but they completely failed. They didn't get very far. But yeah, that's the big picture there regarding the strategic situation. That's how we got here. Yeah, okay. There was a bunch of other details I like to cover, but I'll just leave that for the rest of the 4th Naval in the meeting that we'll discuss later on. So, okay, so going back to what our perspective was, we were to deploy 2 gunboats. We also had 2 recon teams. The way the 4th Naval Division at this point in time is operating is that we operate a gunboat section, which is just a gunboat and a recon team and a motorboat with 2 guys, 1 driver, 1 scout. This has worked out very well for us. The ability to have an extra pair of eyes that can go out further forward to identify threats and identify targets, and then direct us either towards targets or away from threats, has been a really big force multiplier for a gunboat, especially for the colonial gunboat. So that was the force composition on our side that we were contributing to the main fleet. And at this point in time, because we had destroyers, the gunboats were there to make sure the big ships didn't get swarmed by enemy gunboats. At this point in time, about 24 hours just prior to this action, we lost 3 colonial destroyers. And I think it was either Godscroft or Tempest Islands or along that borderline. We lost 2 to 3 destroyers to enemy gunboat swarms, which was a pretty big loss considering the cost in terms of materials and time for a gunboat swarm against a destroyer. Those were kind of losses that if we were to keep up, we would not be able to sustain. So that's why we had to make sure that we brought in a mixed fleet here and try even the odds in that kind of circumstance. So that's why 4th Naval Division was here. That's why we deployed. This was the force roster for the ammunition and whatnot. This was the equipment. These are the slides for those who've never watched any of these after action reports. The slides that you're seeing here were from the pre-op briefing that we give. So you're seeing it as it was basically. And I'm going to try and differentiate and explain the parts and the bits of information that we know in hindsight, and also the other things that we saw as we were going through the battle, basically. As the after action report goes on, if you're new to this, you'll pick it up, so don't worry about that. But yeah, okay. I think that was the last slide. Okay, so we will just get to the footage here then. So we had already assembled most of the fleet, basically. At this point, we only have 1 destroyer on station and my 2 gunboats. Everybody else wasn't around at this point in time. They came later after we had won the battle at Java Sea. Okay, so if we continue over to here, I believe.
8 gunboats.
Okay. Get to around here. Okay, so this is the situation as we were about to go into the battle. So the KSR destroyer, which is the main destroyer that's right next to us, it's just them, me, and Mott, who's my second in command for the 2nd gunboat. And of course, we have our 2 recon teams. Recon commanders were Bread and K4. The way we split it up here in 4th Naval is that we use TeamSpeak as the command comms. So I, as the lead gunboat commander here, I have my scout team, which is Bread. So I'm talking to him on one commnet. And then the other channel is to Mott. I don't have communications to K4. K4 is Mott's recon asset. So any information that K4 picks up, he has to relay it through Mott. It's a little bit more complex. It sounds complicated, but this is the 2nd time that we're running this kind of system, and we found that from the previous operation that we tried the system, trying to have all of the commanders communicate on one channel was an absolute disaster. There's like way too much information, especially for me as the commander. If I'm talking to like 5 different units all at the same time, the moment I get engaged, because I'm commanding a gunboat, the rest of the organization gets paralyzed. The way we try to counter that now is to compartmentalize the comm system, but also if we were to deploy any more than 4 ships, I, as the gunboat command or lead commander, cannot command a gunboat. That was something that was brought up that we are going to implement moving forward. But in this case, because it was a very small force and we were supporting a destroyer, we weren't the lead command ship. I was completely fine with compartmentalizing the force the way that we did, and it worked out very well, as we're about to see here. So here we are. We've got a destroyer, 2 gunboats. We're about to enter Tempest Islands. We already saw the line of Warden gunboats that were coming down from Godscroft. And at this point, we had markers saying that were 9 or so. Of course, you can't really trust markers. You don't know who's putting them up or if they're actually like true or not. So this is where the recon team comes into play. So Bread, who's my point man for recon on my section, I already sent him across. He's already somewhere around here, just outside of Watchtower range. He's about to get eyes on the Warden gunboat swarm here. The KSR commander, his name is Darkstalker. I refer to him as Stalker throughout the entire operation. His intention here was, as you can see, we had a friendly destroyer that was being chased. I'm pretty sure they got chased all the way from the west side of Surgegate here. That was when we first picked up the Warden gunboat swarm coming down. His intentions were to let the destroyer maneuver out, right? And as they were maneuvering east, we were going to cross, get in behind, and then ambush the gunboat swarm. That was his intention here. Looking back at the footage, which I will post all the combat footage, the edited and the unedited later on, and I'll put it in the description to the video here if anybody wants to watch the whole thing as it played out. At the time, you can hear me communicate with Stalker, and he relays his intentions and his reasons and how he wants it to play out. After the battle, however, I completely, in my mind, forgot about the friendly destroyer that was in the area. If you watch the full video, you can hear me already identify and say that, yeah, okay, I already acknowledged there is a friendly destroyer and we're going to support him. But from my point of view, it didn't really factor in. The only thing that really factored in for me at this point in time, as I recall, was the 9 gunboats and the friendly gunboat that was being engaged at this point in time. Those were my only reference points, which quite important as it played out. The way it played, that the battle played out, but you'll see my reasoning why here in a second. So we're about to cross here. I've got Mott on my flank, and yeah, okay, I'll just continue with the vid.
30 meters away.
Commando.
Are we traveling?
Yes, cross. Watch on our left flank. We just crossed.
Okay.
Take us forward a little bit. Forward half speed. I'll stop. Try and maintain your composition with me, Mark. But do you have eyes on how many of them are there?
I'm trying to get a visual.
Oh, there's 8 gunboats in front of us.
Merlin, you have 1 Warden gunboat assault in ours. I'm checking
9
out the main fleet.
I know, but I start gathering the crew.
Just try to hold your position relative to me.
Merlin,
Just try to stay with us.
Gunboats. We're dead.
Like horizontal or
all forward, all. Right. So the comm system for this operation was a little bit different than what I explained. We are still using, as I said, the TeamSpeak for the command comms. The Discord is used for the individual ship units. So everyone on my boat is in a Discord, which I'm in. And then the TeamSpeak is, as I described earlier, that's the way it's laid out. But I also have Gilded, which was a new application that I had never heard of before, but it's basically like Discord Lite. That was the command comm between me and the destroyer. So what you're hearing here is 3 different comm systems going off at the exact same time. So for the wannabe commanders, I'm going to walk you through how you manage all this. So first of all, the chit chat going on the Discord, that right there is completely irrelevant. So the moment I hear Wedge and whoever it was that was speaking, I just cut through that and just completely ignore, because usually it's never important. It's got nothing to do with the tactical situation. The really important stuff here is the intentions of Stalker, Bread, and Mart. So the first one that I always go to is my recon guy, because he's my eyes and he tells me everything that I need to know. And I'm very lucky that Brett is my recon guy, that he always shows up for the big operations. The reason why I always pick him to be my point man there, because me and him, we understand the situation and he knows what I need and I know where I need to deploy him, and he knows how to act and react in pretty much any kind of situation. So at this point in time here, I've already confirmed that there are 9 warning gunboats. They're all pretty much acting together, so they're all in the combined fleet. They're coming directly at us, so they're north of our position, coming south. However, Brett reports to me just earlier, before I started the clip here, they were moving at a slight angle, and I'm about to pick up a visual contact here that confirms that they are moving east. The other point of information was the way the contacts were moving on the watchtower. They were moving southeast, and then they started moving east. So right there, that was the most important part that I need to know. Like I was saying before, the fact that there was a friendly destroyer, it didn't really factor in, and it wasn't that important because they were running away and they weren't going to engage here in this fight here. So that's how it played out here. Now Mart is asking what kind of formation to go for. So this is my fault here. And in the second major fight that we have in Godscroft, which I will cover in this video as well, it should become more apparent what I'm about to say here. But basically, trying to approach it from like a scientific kind of view or from a textbook kind of tactical playbook, in my experience so far, as I've seen, it's not practical at all. It doesn't really matter whether you're to the left of me, to the right of me, or if you're behind me, or any other kind of fancy formation or maneuver. It's not that important because it never plays out the way that you think it is in this game. Foxhole imitates the fog of war and the chaos of combat like in a way that I've never quite seen many other games do it. Try to imitate the abstraction of what a war game is. It does it in a way that, in my opinion, makes it probably the greatest war game ever made. So Mart here is asking me for the type of formation, and that immediately because we're up against 9 gunboats, we're outnumbered 3-1, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that he is near me, all right? So moving forward, the way that we're going to implement it is that gunboat formation is just so long as you're close enough that your weapons can reach us, that's considered the formation. It doesn't matter exactly where you are or what orientation you are in. So long as you're within weapons range, you're in a formation, because that means that you are in a position to lend support if we run into any kind of trouble. And you can lend the support very quickly without having to maneuver too much. So here, once Mart says that, all I say to him is just follow me, because it doesn't really matter at this point. If we're going to go up against 9, it doesn't matter whether you're to the left of me or to the right. That's not too important. So I make the decision here to just go direct west and try to flank around the enemy gunboats, because if we try to go head-to-head with the Wardens, if we go straight, they have enough firepower to knock us out in the first salvo. They've got more than enough firepower to do that. In 5 seconds, we wouldn't be able to get our shot off. We'd be dead. So my plan here is to go around to the left and try to get in behind them and attack them that way. After the battle, before I talked to the KSR commander, I kind of looked at it again and thought that maybe this was a mistake, because we basically leave the destroyer alone, which was not what we were supposed to do. But as you see, the way it plays out here, it actually worked to our advantage, and it played out very nicely. And the KSR guys were quite satisfied and happy with the way that the battle played out, and they don't have any gripe or beef with us for the fact that we went off to the left here. Yeah, so I'll continue the battle right up until we get to the first shot fired, and then I'll explain what was going on there, and I'll also explain what the KSR commander told me after the battle. Forward, left, hard, rudder.
Column or
It has arrived.
Just stay with me as best you can.
Merlin, this is Brad. Be advised they're moving towards your position.
Hard, left, rudder, west. Stalker, this is Merlin. We are about to be engaged.
okay.
We are flanking around to the west. They are heading direct
On the
east.
right side, there are 2 gunboats.
We're heading towards Lost Arcade out.
Okay, all right, hard right, rudder, hard right, rudder. So this was a slight misplay here, probably because I hadn't seen the destroyer come in and spawn, and because it takes 60 seconds for them to spawn across the border. The decision I made was because they were coming in at this full speed, I didn't want to wait. If we're in a gunboat and we're stationary, we're dead. So long as we're maneuvering, we have a fighting chance. So that's why I made the decision there to just stop maneuvering, whether or not KSR was across, and I didn't ask their intentions either. But the moment that I see that the water gunboats were already right in front of us, heading straight east, and KSR as Stalker just sit there, they were gonna head northeast as well. So they're going off in that direction. I now start immediately maneuvering to the right because we're already behind them basically. And if we can get behind all of them as the destroyer is being engaged, we stand a pretty good chance at knocking out the whole swarm. But that isn't quite how it played out though. So we'll continue the vid here. Contact Warden gunboat bearing 016, range 150. Continue hard right rudder, helm, make your course bearing 030. Port side, broadside, standby. Okay, so here, as we can see, it was a slight misplay for the plan that I intended because we're already out of position. The Warden gunboat is faster than the Colonial gunboat, and they are already heading direct east, and the friendly destroyer is going in to intercept them to cut them off from the second destroyer that was being chased earlier. But at this point in time, I don't know that, right? But from what the KSR guys told me was what happened here was that we got spotted by this gunboat right in front of us, and the enemy fleet split up. So right now, me and Mott are engaged in a 2-on-1, but it's that 2 more Warden gunboats that are coming after us at this point in time. We don't know that, but we'll see them in a few more minutes after this. So the Wardens had split up their fleet. So we're, in terms of like the operational standpoint, we are outnumbered. The destroyer is outnumbered by about 5. Yeah. Let's see, 3, 9. Can I do math? Yes. You should have about 6 gunboats going after them that were chasing the friendly destroyer that was already in the region, and Stalker is going to engage those 6 guys. 3 that are coming after us, they actually have extra support. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the extra support, which we're about to see later on, whether they were part of their fleet or not, but considering the way that they engaged us, I'm just going to assume that they were a part. So we have about 3 water gunboats, an APC, and a sticky barge that are already being ordered to engage us 2 here. But the way that it plays out here is that they get split up. Once they start splitting up and try to divide their forces to engage both of us, the destroyer and my group here, they break up their formations and they are unable to engage us all at once. So right here we have a mismatch. Instead of a 9-on-3, we split it up into 2 separate fights, of which in this fight here we have a mismatch of a 2-on-1, which I'm going to take right here, right now.
Enemy straight ahead.
Follow me in. Hard left rudder. Gunner target bearing 324.
Enemy gunboats.
Hard left rudder, helm, make your bearing 315. Continue hard left rudder. Wedge take cover. Hard left rudder. Continue hard left rudder. Starboard broadside, standby.
I died.
Damaged.
Hard left rudder. Come on, we have to try rendezvous back with the destroyer. All forward.
Behind us.
Make your course bearing 132. Man the guns, Wedge, man the guns. All forward, all forward. Contact bearing 128, heading south-southeast.
They're trying to board.
Oh, we disabled? Oh, okay.
Yes.
New contact bearing 030. Okay, there's a dry dock to our left. Make your hard left rudder. So at this point in time, we didn't know that the Warden fleet had split up and whatnot. As I said before, my intention was to try flank around, but we ran into this one gunboat here that was covering their flank. And here you see the 3 gunboats that I've mentioned that are being assigned now to attack us. So we have one guy that's running off. The contact, which I just called out, that's to our northeast, he's going to run off as well. Now, those 2 fellas are going to regroup and come back at us in about 10 minutes. And there's going to be a big fight there. But for right now, there was a little bit miscommunication here. Red calls out that we're disabled, but he just says disabled. And I was thinking it was the enemy gunboat, which we had at that point also disabled. So I didn't realize that we were disabled until much later on. That's just a minor mistake here on both our parts there. So we've taken most of the hits here. Mott's in pretty good condition as far as I can tell. And we're going to go after this Navy pier here to start doing repairs. Martin's Merlin, we are disabled. We are trying to repair.
Copy.
I am disabled and drifting, attempting to make at sea repairs. Matt, we're going to try repair at this bunker base at the dry dock here. Okay, so I've radioed into the destroyer that I'm not operational and I have to get back here to make at-sea repairs. I make the decision not to deploy Mott back to the destroyer because at the end of the day, as far as I know at this point in time, there's 8 gunboats out there. We already know 2 are right here in front of us, near us. I don't see any reason to send Mott up against those kind of odds because we're not going to survive that long. So I'm just going to keep him here next to me. We're going to conduct the repairs. Once we're all up and running, we'll go back and rendezvous with the destroyer. It was going through my mind that we needed to get back to the destroyer because they are facing, in my mind, as I said, I didn't realize that there was a second destroyer. I thought they were outnumbered almost 5-1, but that wasn't the case. They're actually having a fun time on the other side there. What's happening right now on the other side is that the KSR destroyer and the destroyer that was being chased, they've managed to get 6 of those water gunboats that were chasing them in a crossfire, and they're about, at this point in time, massacring them all. The 2 of them against the 6 gunboats. So we're looking all right here. And the fact that we engaged these 3, they're all tied up here and they're not going away to ambush the destroyer from the rear, that we helped out as far as I can tell. And the KSR guys were quite happy with the way they played out. So let me continue here. That was the contact from before we get to the dry dock and we start repairing. Okay, so at this point in time, we've already got our repairs underway and resupply. Those 2 gunboats earlier, they're regrouping now and they're about to attack us. But we get engaged by 2 support ships at this point here.
Where should I head from the island?
Southeast. Contact bearing 090, sticky barge.
Fuck.
Continue turning the way you are, Red. Continue turning the way you are. Steel, hit that barge. Focus fire on the barge. Yes!
Got it.
Hit that APC.
Got him.
Let him have it. Let him have it. Good kill. Good kill. Okay, we need to repair again. Continue fire. Continue fire. All fire. He's still alive inside it.
Oh, I'm dead.
Continue fire. Back us off, Red. Back us off. Okay, good. Okay. So the carcass of that APC there, it actually gave full cover to a guy that was still inside it. We didn't have line of sight to it, and we couldn't see, but he was still lobbing grenades at us, and I lost Wedge right there, who went off to the side with his machine gun for some reason. But yeah, these guys, as far as I can tell, the only reason why they would be coming at us like this early in the battle is that they have a listening kit that's hacked the watchtowers and obs towers that are around us, and they see that there's 2 gunboats here. Or as the way I see it, they are actually part of the main fleet that engaged here, and that's why they were very quick to identify and come at us with this. And as we can see, what's about to happen here. Get us back on the dry dock.
He was in the water shooting us? What?
Contact south. Contact direct south. Red, hard right rudder.
Copy. Oh, I hit our guys. Oops.
So as far as I can tell, these were the 2 guys that we saw earlier that ran away. They've now regrouped and they're coming at us both, as we can see, in pretty much perfect formation, coming right at us from the south at not exact same time, but pretty close to that sticky barge and APC attack. So as far as I am concerned, these guys are all operating together because it looked like that. Now, I've lost most of my crew. They're still trying to respawn at the bunker base that's next to us. There's no reason for me to stay in the spotter. We've already identified these threats and we're low on manpower. We are hit pretty bad. I just immediately go in, man the starboard gun, and start firing away.
Our gunboat is dead.
I'm shooting the dock. I have no shot. Going indirect.
I'll try.
You got a shot now. You got a shot now.
Try to shoot him.
I got him. He's going away.
Reverse, all reverse. So this right here explains why the biggest factor in naval combat, specifically regarding gunboats, it's the crews. Experienced crews, just the major factor that determine the outcomes of battles 90% of the time. So right here, I'm just manning the guns trying to get as much fire as possible because we're hit bad. We're outnumbered at this point. Well, we were once after we lost Mott, we traded with the first water gunboat. The reason why I say we're a little bit outmatched is because it's the water gunboat. They can get more guns on target most of the time. In this case here, however, we're broadside on, so it's an even fight. I don't need to say anything to anybody in this situation for it to play out the way that it did, because I've played for almost a full year, more than a full year with Red and Steel here. These guys have been with me for a very long time playing this game. This entire crew right here is as experienced and veteran as you can possibly get. I don't need to say anything to anybody for them to make the moves here. So Steel, because of the nature of the turret, mechanically speaking, in game, he can't fire past this pier. It's a problem that we've identified quite early on with the direct fire mode, is that you can't aim up, you can't aim down, it just shoots straight, which is very weird. It's different from most of the other shooting mechanics. So this right here is it blocks his shot and it blocks his line of sight. So Red here, he immediately starts driving the gunboat forward so that he can clear the pier and Steel can get shots at. As for me, the ATRs can fire across, and I got like at least 2-3 hits on that gunboat just as we were getting away, which was pretty good because they couldn't hit us either with their mortar turret. They were hitting the Navy pier as well, so we had a pretty big advantage in that fight after they got over to the side here, and then as we can see here, they're just running away. So yeah, that was the way that this fight occurred. So 2 gunboat kills, a sticky barge, and APC for the cost of 1 of ours. And we tied up all of these guys, especially this fella that's running away from the destroyers that engaged the rest of the fleet. And after that, yeah, that was pretty much the battle from our side here. We tied up almost half of the enemy fleet, whilst the destroyers got a mismatch as they were intercepting the gunboats as they were chasing the second destroyer. And the battle was won. So we lost 1 gunboat and we killed all 9 here. Now, after the battle, I talked to KSR. What happened here is that we have 8 kills. This is the 9th guy that's running away. There were 3 more water gunboats that were further up north. And a 3rd destroyer that was coming from the hex adjacent to us, they managed to cross and cut all of those gunboats off, 4 of them, and kill them all. So it's around about, as far as I can tell, 12 to 15 gunboat kills here. We got 9 that we were engaged here, plus the other 3 up north. Yeah, it should be 12. Should be around 12 confirmed kills here. We won't know the full story until after the war's over and the wardens can give us their side of what happened. But at this point in time of recording, that's the way that we see it, and that's the information that we have. So yeah, that was our part in this battle that occurred here. So I will continue on. So after this, we make at-sea repairs. Mott grabs his second gunboat, which we have on standby at our forward stockpile. He's going to return later. We make repairs. We rendezvous back with the destroyer. After we rendezvous back with the destroyer, what we do is we go on patrol to the northern part of the hex. So we regroup up at Planafada, and then we do a patrol along the map borders, clear out all of the territory, get visual confirmation on that. They stick closer to the center of the hex, whilst we swung out closer to the map border, and that way we got visual coverage of pretty much all of the ocean tiles here. We regrouped at Lias Haven. That's when I got Mott back. He got redeployed, and we met up here, regrouped. So the destroyer, 2 gunboats, all regrouped together, and then we made our way north to the map border. And then this is where the game screws us over, because it's around this time that the so-called Steam server outage occurs, and the game basically shuts down. And we get into some pretty dicey situation here. Let's see. So around about here, we already know that there's server issues, and I make the decision not to cross, because if we cross with our gunboat and we all get disconnected, that gunboat's gone. There's no way we're getting back here in time to save it if the wardens decide to come back. We'd have to go off to Port of Rhyme, get a motorboat, and then get back here. And in that amount of time, I highly doubt that the gunboat would be alive. Same goes for my scout team. We leave, well, of course, as we see later, I make the call to sacrifice bid to try and get this situation resolved. But the destroyer decides to cross, which if it were me, I wouldn't have. What happens here is that they cross and they lose half the crew, and it takes some time for them to redeploy. But the reason why it was better for them to cross instead of us is because they have the ability to redeploy. They always have the chance to get back here. But the big decision here was that Stalker decides to continue on with the plan to attack Exile without us. I already told him prior to this at least twice that I wasn't going to cross because, as like I said, if we cross and we all get disconnected, we're done for, and he has 0 help. At least this way, if we stay in our region, he crosses back, we're still on station to help him if he crosses back, which of course things go the absolute worst possible way in this second engagement here. But that's what happens here. So he crosses alone, he gets all his crew back, takes all of his crewmen back in about 15 minutes or so. We stay across the border here, checking when it would be safe for us to cross. And it's around about here that he gets jumped by 6 gunboats. So what I do here is that I sacrifice bid and ask him to try cross, which didn't go well. He tried to cross, he got connection issues, but he did manage to load in. But at this point in time, as I was about to make the crossing myself, Stalker says that he's going to Stilken instead of back to Tempest Islands. So in which case, then I start maneuvering back into Stilken. And I asked Bid again to try cross over there. At this point, before I make the decision to cross because Bid managed to get her, I start losing crewmen on my gunboat, which is when I make the decision again not to cross, if that makes sense. I was about to cross because Red made it over, but then at this point I start losing crewmen to disconnect. So that's when I change again and say that I'm not going to cross because, like I said, if we cross and we lose everything, then we can't help them at all. At least this way, there's a chance that if they are able to get back in, they disconnect, but then redeploy, we can still save the destroyer and we're still on station to help out. But that doesn't happen here. What happens is that they managed to knock out most of the gunboats in their fighting retreat out of here. They managed to cross into Stilken Shelf, but they lose the entire crew. The entire crew gets disconnected the second time they cross over. I think a couple of members managed to redeploy, and the contingency plan was that they were going to get motorboats at the port of Rhyme to then ferry guys back, because some of them couldn't even redeploy onto the destroyer. But yeah, that's what happened there. We finally, after Brett got across and I got all my crewmen back, I then make the decision to cross into Stilken. That's when the server server outage sort of had a break, basically. But then after that, after we got across the port of Rhyme, we regrouped and we tried to cross back into Godscroft to attack Exile. That's when the entire server just straight up shut off, and basically we lost everything. But we did get lucky. We did get a little bit lucky, but this pretty much covers the first part of the action. So I'm going to continue on to the invasion itself.
Ready,
8 gunboats.
Okay. So me and Brett, we managed to get our characters back. We basically had taken a motorboat back from Port of Rhyme to this point, and that's when we lost everybody. The server went down for like an hour and a half, I believe, somewhere around there. So we managed to get back here, and we managed to recover both our gunboats. The destroyer crew managed to get back on the destroyer, managed to respawn there, and reclaim their characters as they were sleeping. And I take the gunboats back to Port of Rhyme, recrew them. I put out a ping saying that the server was back up. The second gunboat crew and the second recon team at this point had logged off, and I don't blame them, because it had been about 3.5 hours at this point, and they had barely got any action in the server. We didn't know how long the server was going to go down. So we get both the gunboats back to Port of Rhyme. I put a ping out on the Discord, and we managed to get most of the NA guys who, at this point in time, were free to get on, and we managed to recrew both gunboats. We don't have any recon teams anymore, but that wasn't important as the rest of the battle played out. So get everybody back, and yeah, we get to the invasion point here. At this point, the rest of the fleet has caught up. So the base ship has arrived. We have 2 more friendly destroyers that weren't part of the coalition, but had joined in, tagged along, and were now helping us out. And as far as I know, the coalition commander was in contact with them direct. I didn't have any contact with them. But they're here, and we'll all have some kind of coordination going on. The armor company with their tanks, they managed to get all their barges up here, didn't get shot up or anything. And then the attack on Exile begins. And this goes very well. We hit the beaches, we get all the tanks on, and we get the relic base. Combat engineers go in and start rebuilding the defenses, retake the relic base, and then we take the western island here as well, which was the main objective. But as I said at the start, we didn't actually get the 150mm battery here. We didn't get that set up, or I'm not entirely sure what the full story is behind that. But we just take the territory, and the attack basically stops here. The Wardens try to counterattack at least twice. There were 2 major attempts for them to QRF. Once on the eastern side here of Exile, they come in, but we have at this point about 6 gunboats waiting for them. So they didn't stand a chance. There is a second fight here that occurs that I wanted to cover for 4th Naval. Yes, this one here. Okay, so at this point here, we have 4 gunboats on our side. We have me, Brett, who's now taking command of the second gunboat, and we have 2 friendly gunboats that are right in front of us. And we're up against 4 enemy gunboats as well. And they're coming down from the north, trying to stop the invasion, coming on the east side of Exile. So we're here to intercept them and stop them here. So I didn't want this fight because it's dark. The enemy has the Ops Tower, and most of the islands are all under their control. They actually even have a tier 3 bunker base set up in the island that's northeast of us in this picture here. So it was all their home territory, and I didn't want to fight. But our allies here start moving forward, at which point we can't leave them to go in alone, because if they go in 2-1-4, they're not going to last last for very long. They're just going to die. If we all go in together, we have a chance to actually win the fight. So we end up going in together. Rudder. Oh. Okay, maintain course 353. Right rudder, right rudder. Make your course 009. Contact bearing 328, 4 gunboats. Fire will. Left, left, left. All hit, all hit. Left, hot left rudder. I died.
Merlin's is red. We're down.
Hot left rudder. Try to get us out of here a bit. I'll hit it, I'll hit it. So here, as I said before, having an experienced crew really pays off. I give an order to go hot left rudder, which if we did do, we would have got absolutely murdered. So red goes the other way, which is the right way to go to get us out of here. Because that was the final order that I give him. You know, it's hot left rudder, but then after that, get us out of here. So it's very, can't really explain to people like how he interprets that, but he just knows that the priority at this point is just get us out alive, because the fight didn't go the way that I thought it did. We actually end up winning. Our 2 allied gunboats, they managed to finish off the other gunboats that were here. We killed the captured colonial gunboat, and we got a bunch of ATR shots off on the other 2 that were directly behind them. One of them gets away, so we kill 2 warden gunboats and 1 captured colonial gunboat. One of them, the last one, gets away, but we only traded one gunboat. Red goes down very early on in the fight. We got caught out of position slightly because we went head to head with them, which, like I said, in the very first fight was something we wanted to avoid, but it just the way that it happened here. Yeah, that was the fight there. Once red gets us out, we survive. We go back to Port of Rhyme and regroup there, and nothing really eventful occurs after that. We get engaged again here at Pig Island. I make a very dumb decision to try check out the channel here, and we get jumped by 2 gunboats and get killed, and that ends the operation for us there. We had been running for like almost 5 hours straight at this point, but the operation overall was quite successful. We got into God's Craft despite all the issues, got exile, built it up, and right now we're kind of pretty much prepared to go into exit. So it's the operation before the big operation before another big operation. Yeah, so it was this fight here that I came to the conclusion that, as I said at the very start, the formations and the kind of like tactical handbooks and this, that, it's all nice to talk about, but in practice, it very rarely ever comes into play. It's usually just experienced crews and the gut instincts of the commander at the point of time. Because fog of war is very real out on the open ocean here in Foxhole. You don't know who's there, you don't know what they are, how experienced the enemy is. Watchtower coverage is very limited, especially when you're out in the middle of the hexes. Just like the first fight there, we didn't quite know what was going on, but we just played the cards as we saw them right. So the moment I saw that we got a mismatch, 2-on-1, we went and just took it. Fancy maneuvers were not important, formations weren't important. So long as we had a force concentration and a mismatch against the enemy at that specific point in time, that was more than enough to compensate and win us the day. So yeah, that pretty much covers most of the things that I needed to cover here for the after